Hello everyone. Alright, so if you need to replace your silver chloride reference electrode solution, or refresh it, as I like to say, either because of typical maintenance, where I would suggest you refresh your reference electrode every 6 months to a year or so, or because your electrochemical measurements are no longer working as you would expect, this is kind of a good old how-to on how you would go about doing that. And so to do this, we'll start by, here's our reference electrode. As we can see, it has the silver wire here that goes all the way up and connects to this gold pin, and the frit, the frit here, which transduces the ions between the solution for your electrochemical measurements all the way to the silver wire. This glass tube here is filled all the way up with 3 molar KCl solution, and typically if any damage were to occur to a reference electrode, it would be occurring because something is occurring, most likely to the frit. Either it was left out overnight and the KCl solution crystallized in the frit. Maybe there was an air bubble that is occurring between the frit and the silver wire, so that the ions in the current cannot be transduced. All sorts of things could be the cause, but either way, this should be a really good quick fix on how to replace and refresh your reference electrode. So we're going to start out by removing this parafilm wax that's holding together this back cap and the glass tube here. So we'll do that now just by kind of cutting away at this parafilm. We can do that here. So now we've removed our parafilm, and now we just have our back cap and our glass tube together. And so we want to separate that, and we can do that by just pulling them apart like so. And now we have our back cap with our silver wire on it, which we'll put to the side for now. And we have our glass tube with our frit here. And this whole tube is full of KCl. You can maybe see the little air bubble up here that we just removed from removing the silver wire. And so the first step in this process is to just remove the KCl from inside this tube. You can do that either by kind of knocking like that, or just by vigorously shaking. I'm going to do this off camera, but you'll just have to shake that solution out somehow. And once you have, now we have our glass tube, and it's no longer full of KCl. And it is instead empty. Actually, there might be just a little bubble of KCl right there, but the rest of this is empty. So now I'll just get rid of that bubble. There we go. So now we have our empty glass tube and our frit. And so the first thing we're going to want to do is take a little weigh boat, or maybe a beaker or some form. Remove this blade. And we're just going to want to fill it with some DI water. So we'll take our DI water, we'll fill up this weigh tray with the water, recap that and put it away for now. And we'll just let our frit soak, our frit and our whole tube just soak in that water. And the reason we want to do this is to get rid of any salt that could be dried up in the frit. If there's any salt in the frit, just leaving it in the water should help that salt dissolve. So I would recommend leaving this glass tube with the frit in the water solution for 5 to 10 minutes, just to let any salt that's crystallized dissolve out. Alright, so it's been 10 minutes, so we've left our tube in this container here. It should be all cleaned out. It still is empty. It just will no longer have salt on it. And what we want to do now to really clean it out is we're going to push water through this glass tube and through the frit. And that is going to just really redundantly help remove any excess salt or anything that could be wrong with the frit. And so we can do that with a little pipette here, which can fit right into the back of this tube like so. So we're going to fill up our pipette with water, and we're going to just try and push that through this frit. And it might happen rather slowly. You can see bubbles occurring at the bottom of the frit as I'm just pushing air through it. And I'm getting that water all the way down to the frit. And so we've got water down there, but I'm out of water in our pipette. So we're going to refill this. Now we have water all the way down to the frit, and we are just going to keep pushing this water through. And similar to how we saw bubbles occurring before, now we should see little drops of water happening at this frit. I don't know if you can see the beads of water coming from the bottom of that frit. But we are really just pushing water through the frit now, using our pipette. And we'll do this a few times. So we'll just refill. And it's okay if water is going on the outside. That's totally fine. There's, of course, not going to be a great seal between your pipette and this glass tube, and that's totally okay. That's why we have our PPE in the first place, and are doing this in a safe lab environment. So again, we're just going to keep pushing our water through this frit. You can see this drops of water coming there. We don't want to push too hard because we don't want our frit to pop out, or we don't want to damage the frit itself. Let's see if I can get this to focus on it at all. Go. I'll just do this a few more times, like so. You might be able to see the water coming out. So here we have a little bubble actually. That's totally fine. We're just pushing water through it right now. If this were later on and we were doing this with KCl, we would really want to get that bubble out. But with water, it's okay, because all we're trying to do is push water through the frit. You can see our little bubbles moving down. We're going to stop doing this. You can do this, 3 to 5 times of kind of re-pushing that water through. But I think for now, this is pretty good. And you can see I just sucked up a bunch of the water with a pipette. So now we have all of our water in our glass tube here, and we need to get that out so that we can refill it with KCl, which is its regular solution that we have this filled with. So again, in the same way as before, you can really just shake that water out in whichever method you find best. It's totally up to you. And so now we have here our glass tube. It's empty. There's no more water on the inside. Let's take a little paper towel here and dry this guy off. Like so. Alright. So we have our glass tube right here. And our frit should be freshly purged of any salts and should now be ready to go for our KCl. And so in a very similar way as what we just did with our water, we're going to move our water. I spilled a little bit there. Just wipe that up. Okay. So, very similar to what we did with our water now. We will take another little container, be it a weigh station a weigh boat or a beaker or whatever you may have in your lab. Now we'll fill that up with our 3 molar KCl solution. So we have our little container with 3 molar KCl solution. So we'll pour that into our working container right here. And then what we will do is take a fresh pipette, an unused pipette, and we will do the same thing that we just did with the water, now with our KCl. So we'll just fill up our pipette with the KCl. And we'll just push that KCl through our tube here. You can see the bubbles of water as the KCl is going down the glass tube and into the frit itself. I'll just do this a few times here. Refill with our KCl. Really push that through so you can see the bead at the tip of the frit from the KCl being pushed through. Some of this, of course, is also coming from the outside, as again, this is a bit of a messy process and we're not making a perfect seal. I'm doing my best to hold this seal tight with my fingers here where I put the pipette into the glass tube, but again, it's not a perfect seal. The goal is that we're just really pushing this solution through the glass tube and into the frit, which we are doing. And so that's a great sign. So we'll do this just once more here. And we will push our solution so that water is coming from the outside, but now it should be coming from inside the frit. So we'll just push our last bit of KCl through. And just like that. And so now we should have our whole tube full to the brim with KCl. We don't want any air bubbles at this point, because now we need the KCl for its ionic transduction from the frit, from the electrolyte through the frit to the silver wire. And so now we have our tube filled to the brim with our KCl solution. We're ready to put things back together. And so we set this back cap down at the very beginning. Let's see if we can get this into focus here. So this is our silver wire. It should be almost grayish, like a grayish white of sorts. The last step we want to do is to backfill this cap here with the KCl solution as well, so that we don't introduce any air bubbles when we close, or when we put everything back together. And so just like that, we're gonna backfill this with KCl. So now this guy is full to the brim with some KCl solution. This guy is full to the brim with KCl solution. And now we can really just put it together. And so we'll do that just like this. And when you do this, you should actually be able to see a little bit of the KCl being pushed through the frit as we kind of have overfilled it with this KCl. So there we can see our bead of KCl coming through the frit. This means that it is now porous if there was any blockage before. So I'm just closing this cap back onto our glass tube here. And there you have it. So now we have our reference electrode back together. We just need to seal it up. But first I'm going to give this a little rinse with some of our water here. At this point I'm just using the same pipette because I'm just rinsing it, really. Just making sure that no salt is on the outside so that it doesn't get all crusty looking. Now we'll just dry it off just like that. Great. And now we should have a nice clean reference electrode, just like that. Full with KCl. We don't want any air bubbles on the inside of this tube because we want a really clean transduction of signals from the frit to the wire for our processing. You can see the KCl is drying on my glove here. This is what it would look like if you don't clean off the outside of the frit. It'll just be a lot of salt crystals. And so, like I said, the last step is to just kind of clean up this seal here between the glass tube and our plastic back half. So I'm going to get this little rubber band a little out of the way here. We just have some parafilm wax laying around. Whatever tape or parafilm of any kind that you have would work great as well, as long as it's chemically stable with whatever you're working with. And so we're just going to clean up this interface here. Wrap it up nice and tight. And there you have it. A fresh, new reference electrode ready to go. It might be best to let this sit overnight before you do your experiments in case anything happened with the silver wire, because if you leave this silver wire sitting in its KCl solution, its fresh, clean KCl solution, you should almost refresh the silver wire as well, especially if it was very dried out or left out overnight. The silver wire itself might be not ready to go. But if your silver wire is ready to go, the frit is now cleaned out. There's fresh KCl in our glass tube, and this is ready to record. So the very last step is to just fill up its container. We store our reference electrode in this little vial here, and we want to do the same thing as before. So we will fill this container with KCl because we want to keep our frit from drying out as much as possible. So whenever we're done with our experiments, we'll keep this back in its storage container so that the frit has KCl on the inside on one side of it and KCl on the other side of it as well as it's stored away. And there you go. Fresh, clean reference electrode stored and ready to go.